Welcome back. It's the Big Blue Banter, New York Giants football podcast. I'm Dan Schneider, joined as always by my co-host Nick Velato. Today we're here to break down the All-22 film of the Giants defense against the Panthers in their loss in Germany. Well, Nick, the Giants defense went 45 minutes and allowed just 7 points in a 45-minute span in this game. I thought that was incredible. At the end of the first quarter, they didn't allow anything more than a touchdown the rest of the way. So that was something that stood out to me about this defense. But the key takeaway I think that we all have is, man, this run defense, it's a problem right now, and it's a struggle for the Giants right now. There was a moment where they looked, at least mid-season, I thought, where everybody was kind of playing together from a run defense standpoint and playing in sync. That seems to have gone the wayside. I think with the exception of Tyler Nubin and Dane Belton got a lot of run in this game. The safeties, man, they need a lot more from the safeties in the run game. I put a couple clips up online of just really, really bad plays from the safeties. The one play where Dane Belton is like coming from the right hash and cuts all the way inside and allows Hubbard to go for an extra like 12, and Burns has to like track him down from a DN position and gets himself hurt. And then Flott also gets hurt because Flott's trying to come make a play on it. It's like two injuries happen because Dane Belton couldn't just cut off a run. You have Banks in run support not making the right play, not containing runs. You have all sorts boxing them back in. You have all sorts of issues on this run defense. And to me, a lot of them seem to stem from things that you've talked about, Nick, and we've talked about. No real depth on the D line besides Dexter Lawrence, right? No one behind him. And then these secondary, the corners and the safeties are not playing well in run support.
We're going to go over a lot of those plays on today's podcast, but there's no continuity right now with the defense. It seems like a lot of people are scrambling. They're not exactly where they need to be, and the gap discipline is a problem. It's not just the lack of depth on the interior defensive line. It's containing now. And now it's an issue because when you have a player like Drew Phillips, who does such a good job as that apex defender, which he has done throughout this season, usually you can shut down a lot of these runs to the outside. But in recent weeks, the crack toss has taken advantage of the Giants. And it's not an indictment on Drew Phillips. It's more an indictment on those outside cornerbacks. And Deontay Banks was bad on the one where the tackle got outside of him, pinned him to the inside. And if the safeties can't get down, that's going to be like a 30-yard run, Dan. Right. And it was for Chuba Hubbard. So many of these runs were just massive runs where one or two Giants just did not do their job well enough. There were times where the safeties were just a little late to fill. The linebackers chose to undercut the block when they didn't go over top. And if they were able to do that, maybe it would have resulted in a stop. But instead, since they missed the opportunity, it ended up being a 12 or 15-yard run. So it's been a big problem. Earlier in the season, I think you could have made the argument, Dan, that the Giants' run defense isn't that bad. They've just given up big plays, especially like against Washington, where you have Cordell Flott who couldn't contain. It's just bad at this point. And it's happening too with 97 on the field as well. It's much worse when he's not, but the lack of depth is a problem. But this is also a structural issue and an issue at all three levels of the defense, which, again, you can blame the linebackers. Look, the linebackers have a lot on their plate, but when they take the wrong step or they make the wrong read or they try to get creative to make a play, the safety isn't there to bail them out.
Yeah.
Complementary football is not happening right now with this Giants defense at all three levels.
Defense. Yeah,
run
for
defense.
sure. And pass defense. They
just
you're
not
right.
This game because you got
more challenged because of Bryce Young. You're right, though. It is a big problem. The defense doesn't seem to be going in the right direction when it seemed like they had started to go in that direction in the middle of the season, right? Like a dominant performance against Joe Burrow's Bengals. No one's been able to shut down Burrow the way the Giants did in that game. Even Dallas the week before, they did really well against Dallas. I thought there was some quick game stuff that Dak hit in the Lamb play, but outside of that, they did a good job in that game, and that offense was still cooking. It kind of, not cooking, but fine at that point. So it just seems like they're going in the wrong direction here. Weird stuff going on with Banks. And as we're seeing the defense kind of go in the wrong direction, we're seeing a lot of defensive players go in the wrong direction as well, like Deontay Banks, for example. You referenced the run play earlier, but, he's allowed 33 completions. This is according to NFL Pro. He's allowed 33 completions for 429 yards and 6 touchdowns on 47 targets when he's the nearest defender in coverage this season. That's the 9th most yards allowed in the NFL. And opposing quarterbacks have generated a plus 22.6 EPA when targeting Banks in coverage, 7th worst among all cornerbacks. These are bad numbers for a second-year first-round pick at the corner position.
And look, Dan, playing cornerback is very difficult in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're going to suck sometimes. But what I can't tolerate is you not trying. is you going out there and putting out minimum effort and being borderline a malcontent to where every coach has to be like, oh, is Deontay Banks dialed in right now? That's the problem with Deontay Banks. It's not just that he sucks right now, because I know there's a good football player in there. It's the fact that he doesn't care. And that is a direct referendum on the coaching staff itself. So he needs to dial himself in. Look, there weren't too many plays in this game where I was like, he wasn't dialed in. He wasn't in the right spot. That was a tough play against an offensive tackle, and it allowed Chuba Hubbard to hit the crease. We'll go over that a little bit later. I understand all of that. But it also just seems like to me, watching Deontay Banks, and this is over a year plus, I don't think he likes contact. I don't think he likes contact, dude. And I hate to say that, dude. I really hate to say that, man, because I'm just some idiot sitting in a chair. But there are so many plays where I see Micah McFadden, and I see Bobby Okereke, and I see Tyler Nubin flying into the contact point to ensure that the ball carrier is down. And then I see three. I see Deontay Banks run up, and he's like, oh, he's down. He's down. Oh, he's not down. Oh, wait, let me get closer. Okay, no, he's down now. Doesn't like contact, dude. And that sucks. I hate that that's true, but it definitely seems to be substantiated on the tape.
It's hard to argue with it when we watch the tape, and it's a problem for sure.
And don't get me wrong, man, he can contact. Like, there are times where he flies up when he's that primary guy in run support. But if he's one of those guys in pursuit and he's coming from the backside, he's not the most eager guy to ensure that ball carrier gets on the ground. He'd rather just kind of tiptoe around and then like stay light on his feet and be like, oh, do they need me? Do they need me? Well, maybe just be needed. Be needed until the whistle is freaking blown.
Sure.
Not that complex, man.
No, it's not that complex. There's a lot of moving parts that we probably don't know about, obviously, that we can only judge from the tape. But you can hear it from the way the locker room reacts, things they said about him and the coaches. So it's a problem for the Giants that has kind of festered in this season. Let's talk a little bit about Dexter Lawrence before we get into it. Dexter Lawrence, some cool stats from the season. He leads all defensive tackles and sacks. I think we knew that with 9. He has the 3rd most pressures despite being double teamed on a league high 64.6% of pass rushes. Just unbelievable. Of 28 of his pressures, half have come when he's double teamed. 14. That's insane. In week 9, Lawrence was double teamed on 63.2%. And that was the first time he was ever held for 0 pressures. So just you're getting an unbelievable season out of Dexter Lawrence at the very least as Giants fans. So we can appreciate that.
100%. And we didn't see him too frequently in this game. Look, it's not like Carolina was doing a lot of 3-5 step drops. Everything was just coming out of Bryce Young's hands very quickly. Just get rid of the football with haste. I thought Brian Burns had a fantastic game overall. Dexter Lawrence still commands the middle of the defense. A lot of those runs by Chuba Hubbard weren't when 97 was necessarily out there. A lot of them were towards the outside. Some of them when it was just EJ Davidson and Rakeem Nunez-Roches. And that's still because 97 is such a threat, commands so much attention. I'll say this, though, man. Brian Burns is a backside pursuit defender. They left him on block or left Jatavian Sanders, poor soul, on him. Every single time Brian Burns just crashed down the line of scrimmage and made the tackle. You just can't do that with Burns. That's one thing that does suck about this. Look, this was his, he wanted this game so bad. You could see it. He's out there playing with a hurt groin, other lower body ailments, and he's just playing his ass off. I think he had 7 or 8 pressures.
7 pressures, game, which was a career high on a per pass rush basis, because it was 25 pass rush attempts and 28% of them were pressures, including 4 that were under 2.5 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, he has 17 quick pressures on the season, 35 total pressures.
Great.
Or I think that was even before the week. Yeah, he's played very well. It's just, look, man, the Giants suck right now. It's frustrating. He went from one shit team to another shit team, and the shit team that he left ended up beating the shit team that he joined.
Oh my God, that's
never a great thing.
Yeah, no, it's not good for him. I don't think he expected it to go this way. I don't think many expected it, Dexter Lawrence included, but this is where we are. We're 2-8, and we lost to the 2-7 Panthers, who were projected to be the worst team. So it is what it is right now. So
he had pressure on 28% of his pass rushes against the Panthers.
Just amazing.
And that's even more amazing when you consider how quick Bryce Young was getting rid of the football.
Yep. That wasn't the issue in this game. He played a phenomenal game, had that hustle play we discussed when Belton missed the tackle earlier, or I shouldn't say missed the tackle, took a weird angle earlier. So the hustle was there, as it always is.
Belton wasn't great in the game.
No. Belton was really bad in this game to me, as far as run support goes.
And the loss of Jason Pinnock was felt not just because Pinnock is an upgrade over Dane Belton, but the Giants, they were pretty content on going out there matching 12 personnel with their base defense and tight fronts, meaning 3 defensive linemen out there, not overly threatened by Ian Thomas and Jatavian Sanders. But I think the Giants defense is at its best when you don't have multiple defensive tackles out there. Multiple, meaning 3, I should say, because 2 is like Rakeem Nunez-Roches is an okay defensive lineman. But once you start getting DJ Davidson out there, it's tough. Elijah Chapman played, 5 snaps in this game? It's Dexter
Watts season.
Watts could be the second best defensive lineman on this team. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Exactly. I think Nacho's better, but I've seen Armand Watts flash to the point where I was like, that was good. In this game, he shed somebody, swam over top of him, and then made a stop at the line of scrimmage on Chuba Hubbard. I'm like, that's a good play by Armand Watts. But that's not necessarily me saying I like having Armand Watts on the roster. It's me saying this defense is depth sucks so bad that I'm excited to see Armand Watts out there over some of the other players behind Dexter Lawrence.
Correct. Entirely correct.
Look, we all wear underwear every single day, and we all have complaints. They ride up, they're not comfortable, they don't fit correctly. I shared these complaints until I started wearing Skims. When I tried Skims stretch boxer briefs, I felt like I finally found that missing link. They gave me all the movement I needed for the workout. They were comfortable while I was sitting here podcasting and watching all of this New York Giants film. Everything from the texture to the fit worked for me, and it will work for you too. It is a great product, and I highly recommend it. Shop Skims Men's at skims.com. Let them know we sent you after you place your order. Select podcast in the survey and select our show, Big Blue Banter, in the drop-down menu that follows.
Sucks though, dude. That's embarrassing. I guess one silver lining to this shitty season of the New York Giants is that the Giants rookies are playing just enormous amounts of snaps on the offense and on the defense. I think their rookies have accounted for 17.9% of the defensive snaps, which is the second highest, and their offensive snaps, rookies have accounted for 18.4%, which is the 5th highest in the league. And a lot of those offensive snaps, they're not going to linemen because there's no rookie alignment. They're going to Malik Neighbors. They're going to Tyrone Tracy Jr. They're going to Theo Johnson. So skilled position players who will theoretically be more impactful once they grow into their own a little bit. So this is still a very young team. I'm sure Joe Shane will harp on that this week when he's being interviewed by the media about how young this team is. It's still not an excuse for the ineffective product that they have out there.
Yeah, you're right about that, but it is a good note that we are one of the younger teams. All right, let's roll into some play breakdowns.
Yeah, let's get into some play breakdowns. We are going to get started here, and we are going to start with a 2nd and 5 play. This is the sack by Brian Burns off a play action bootleg. Look, Carolina tried to keep everything really tight, and condensed. They did a solid job at that, especially when they ran to the outside. Here, they act like they're running to the outside. It's boot, and you really can't do that against Brian Burns. He's too instinctive. He's too quick. He's too explosive. And they tried to leave Xavier Legette, who's a pretty damn good receiver, mind you.
Yeah.
Xavier Legette on him just to get in his way. It just did not work, and Bryce Young was toast. And if you look at the coverage too, Dan, good job by the New York Giants. Just sticking. Tyler Nubin just gets right on the hip of Ian Thomas. Nowhere for him to run. Andrew Phillips handles his responsibility. Everything's covered up.
Excellent play by Burns. Excellent play by the defense, like you said.
And then Burns does a great job hitting the Spider-Man at the end of it, as you'll see. Let's get down. Burns wanted this, man. Gets his sack, and then Spider-Man moves, Spider-Man. Oh, no, I cut it. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. You can roll back and see it. Here, 11:48, 1st and 10. Got a nice little post over the top, and then a dig to Xavier Legette. Ends up being a completed pass, clear out the cover 3. Giants lose Legette. Look, I think there's a lot of times, man, when the Giants are in these cover 3 middle of the field close and they clear out that deep safety, and there's a lot riding on these middle hook defenders, these linebackers. And here it's going to be Micah McFadden, who just doesn't keep up with the dig route from Xavier Legette coming from the backside, because Cordell Flott has to respect his deep third. You have the safety drop down, and Dane Belton. At this point, it's like, is Belton going to stay there? But Belton sees that post coming from the backside. He needs to scramble, but it's so late. He's just in no man's land, not doing anything on this play. Cordell Flott has some awareness to drop and try to undercut that deep post from the backside that Banks is in solid position on, but everyone just loses Xavier Legette. And I think that's Tyler Nubin on the other side is held in check by the flat route from Chuba Hubbard. So defense is not communicating. They're not in position. And you allow Bryce Young to stand in the pocket for about 2.5 seconds and deliver a 20-yard pass to Xavier Legette, splitting the zones.
Yeah, it's a second window throw from Bryce Young, which I thought was impressive. Obviously, Legette, the first window he didn't like, gets him in the second window. And just quiet feet from Bryce Young in the pocket. Not a lot of panic, not a lot of bail. Just finds a way to kind of shuffle himself and reset himself and find a new landing spot to throw the football. I actually thought this was a very good play by the quarterback.
It was a very good play. And now we're going to have a nice run here by Chuba Hubbard, weak side, field toss, crack toss. You're going to see 18 Coker. He's going to crack and pin Brian Burns. And then the play side tackle, Brady Christensen's going to kick out, get enough of Andrew Phillips. And Dane Belton just doesn't get down quick enough. And Dane Belton needs to make this tackle. It's Micah McFadden making it way downfield, but you have missed tackle after missed tackle after missed tackle. This is a tough spot for Andrew Phillips to be in, right? Drew Phillips gets outside, stays square, gets outside, and then gets low and tries to make the tackle. But he forces Chuba Hubbard back to the inside where those pursuit defenders are supposed to be and where the alley defender is supposed to be, being Dane Belton. And Dane Belton's late, and then he allows
a bad angle as well.
Yeah. So again, we knew Dane Belton wasn't a good run defender back his rookie season. It's never really seemed like it's improved, unfortunately. Missed tackles was another thing with the Giants. Too many missed tackles. And here we have the other crack toss. Now we're going to the field side. See, play side tackle Taylor Moton gets out there. Deontay Banks does not get outside. Unlike Drew Phillips. You saw Drew Phillips got outside. Deontay Banks does not, and he goes inside, and then you could see
he's already got Okereke inside in pursuit. That's why it's just something off there.
Exactly. Okereke. And I like this play sequence because I don't have the play before, but the play before, Carolina came out, empty formation, 12 personnel. So they spread Ian Thomas and Jatavian Sanders out, and now you have the Giants just like this big beef in the middle on a tight front, and they tried to spread them out and use the slowness of the personnel package that Shane Bowen was employing against the New York Giants. But then on the very next play, they come out here in 11 personnel, they keep everything tight, and then they run this crack toss, and they're able to keep everything tight because they get to the outside. 72 does a great job there, and then it's Tyler Newman who gets downfield, misses a tackle, and Cordell Flott has to come all the way from the other side to make this play, man. This is tough. This is tough on the defense's part. Great job by Carolina. Drew Phillips gets pinned. Brian Burns gets pinned. And no one gets outside. Okereke tries to slip underneath, man, and Chuba Hubbard just... If Deontay Banks was able to get outside, maybe Okereke makes this play. But he allows himself to get pinned, and then Chuba Hubbard's like, I could just get outside.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, exactly. If Banks plays this right, he can spill it back into Okereke, but
26 yards there on a 3rd and 1. It came out in 11 personnel. Now we're going to have the Jatavian Sanders touchdown miscommunication, right? Just way too many miscommunications. His team is just not on the same page. Jatavian Sanders chilling in the back of the end zone. Isaiah Simmons goes to contact him, force him to the outside, and then Simmons just sank into his middle hook, did not carry him. I think he believed that he had Dane Belton as the center fielder, but Dane Belton, for whatever reason, clamped down on the inner receiver, Xavier Legette, who was being walled off by Bobby Okereke. So you have 2 sets of eyes on Xavier Legette.
God.
Nobody takes Jatavian Sanders. It's just a miscommunication between Isaiah Simmons and Dane Belton. I'm unsure on exactly who's at fault. Legette is somebody you want to pay attention to, obviously, but you can see Simmons does not know that Sanders is unaccounted for there. He's just looking and sees Bryce Young step up into the pocket, and Bryce Young does a good job finding Sanders.
Yeah, just a good example to me of a natural football play from the quarterback, something that we talked about a lot on this podcast, right? It's off script. What the script didn't go according to plan. Instead of bailing right, cutting off half the field, or just locking onto that first read, he's able to kind of step up and then have a natural feel for where an open receiver might be and then connect with that open receiver for a touchdown.
You're right, because if you look at the stripe of Bryce Young's helmet, he looks at Xavier Legette.
Yeah.
Looks at Xavier Legette, sees, oh crap, I got Armon Watts coming at me. I don't have a lot of space here. There's 2 guys on Legette. Oh, there's 2 guys on Legette. That means no one's in the middle of the field where Jatavian Sanders is, because Isaiah Simmons didn't come. Okay, touchdown. It's putting those 2 pieces together. It's not rocket science, right? But it's just understanding that, hey, that space was vacated. It may be open right now. Brian Burns puts his tackle on the deck. Doesn't matter. Touchdown.
Good natural field TD by Bryce Young.
We're going to have a 24-yard cross, another very good throw and play by Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Again, he started the game hot, and then he just didn't really do anything down
there. Yeah, exactly.
2nd and 6, 24-yard crosser to Jalen Coker over again. Micah McFadden, cover 3, isolate the cross against McFadden by bringing Newman down to the flat to handle Ian Thomas. I'm sorry. You see how he gets on Ian Thomas quickly. So there's no curl flat defender towards that side. Whoever that is, Cordell Flott gets cleared out, and then it's just Micah McFadden against Jalen Coker. So you can see how Dave Canales is deconstructing the cover 3 zone, the match zone that the Giants were running out here. And they're really picking on Micah McFadden in the middle of the field. It's a tough assignment for McFadden, though. Again, it's not me saying like, oh, McFadden sucks. That's a great throw by Bryce Young.
Great throw, yeah.
High and away. There's no way McFadden can make a play on that.
Yep. Puts it in a perfect spot in between the defenders.
Here we're going to get 15-yard pistol sidecar rush. DJ Davidson and Micah McFadden both go inside, and Bobby Okereke can't really slip his block. It's a great run by Chuba Hubbard, though, man. That's the feat of Chuba Hubbard and how he's able to find this crease. As you can see, DJ Davidson, Micah McFadden, they both go in that direction. Now, Davidson has his hips somewhat placed. His feet are turned in the wrong direction to execute this run fit, but he keeps going, and Chuba Hubbard just is patient enough. That's a beautiful run by Chuba. And he's able to stiff arm Bobby Okereke until Dane Belton cleans it up.
Yeah, well broken down by you. Chuba Hubbard was impressive to me on tape.
And Timon Fox needs to make this play if you're going to play on Sunday, man. You get the chip. Now close. Can't.
Yeah.
15 yards. Now we're going to get a 3rd and 10 play from Bryce Young. He ends up getting hit. And this could have been caught, but it ends up falling incomplete here. Burns absolutely nails Bryce Young on a little twist, TE twist, where he flows underneath Armon Watts and just delivers a shot. Could have been a much worse shot, but he doesn't want to take a penalty there.
Yep.
And we're going to have a 3rd and 4. Dexter Lawrence just drives the center right back into the lap. Again, this could have been caught too. Ball was there. This poor center just gets gobbled, man, really. It's Thanksgiving season, right?
Yeah.
Cover 1. Giants run a lot of man coverage, cover 1 in these 3rd and short situations, 3rd and medium situations. They've been doing it a lot for the last 3 or 4 weeks. Here's a 3rd and 1.
Dexter Lawrence there, dominating that.
Just dominating. 3rd quarter, 7:38. This is a 3rd and 1, 25-yard rush up the middle by Chuba Hubbard. There's no Dexter Lawrence.
Dane Belton.
Dane Belton's not good here.
This is the rep I was referring to earlier.
I feel like Tyler Newman's a little bit late to fit as well.
Yeah.
You see how he comes in late. But if you look at the defense, you have an over front with a 2-eye on the backside. Keem Nunez-Roches gets blocked out of it. He puts his hips into the B gap, but you have Jatavian Sanders inserting, so it's like a Y insert from the shotgun. Micah McFadden and Bobby Okereke end up basically taking the same gap because McFadden gets blocked out of his. Chuba Hubbard realizes that, has excellent vision, hits the hole, and there's no alley defender. Both the safeties are late and take a bad angle. Now, it's a little bit difficult for Belton coming from the other side like that. He just kind of gets juked, and Newman was a little bit late. I thought Tyler Newman played phenomenally in this game, though.
Yeah. And that was a play where you see at the end, Burns got hurt and Flock got hurt because of,
that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Here we're going to have 8:08 left in the 4th quarter, 1st and 10. Drew Phillips comes up with a play and strips Chuba Hubbard. On this play, too, you got Nacho just knocking back the offensive lineman right on his ass. I wonder if his feet got tangled up or was this just power from Nacho? I think, it looks like just power. Nacho just put him on his rear end, and Brian Burns swims inside. I can't believe the Giants screwed this up, man. You come up with this is a gift. This is a gift. This was like what happened with the Giants in 2022, Dan, where the Giants were just like, oh, well, they could win the game, I guess.
Right.
And then it was just like the Jags just fumble the football, or the Panthers in week 2 just fumble the football on the ground on a special teams play. And the Giants were just like, oh, okay, I guess we'll score. Now they just can't score.
They had so many gifts. The Giants earlier in that breakdown, we had the 3rd and 8. The one we showed was like behind Theo, whatever. That was like they punted with 3:40 left. They got the ball back again after that to have one more drive. They had like 17,000 opportunities on offense in this game.
So many. And here's, look, I don't know if this is
this is the throw I was talking about.
Yeah, this is a great throw from Bryce Young. Far hash.
The best throw of the game by far. This is the one I was talking about with the Wandale, how you'd like to see him lead him toward the sideline here.
Yeah.
Like Young does here.
This is a great throw by Bryce Young. This is a 3-by-1 set. The number 3 is Xavier. Yep, far hash. Xavier Leggett. He runs a deep corner route. It's man coverage. It looks like Deontay Banks and Drew Phillips get confused on who their assignments are. Deontay Banks gets rubbed off by Coker, and then number 0 ends up running just an under route, was wide open. Bryce Young, this shows a little bit of cojones here, man. Bryce Young doesn't take this simple little number 0 right in front of
Right.
his face, the 3rd and 8. He decides to make the difficult throw and puts it
Right.
exactly where it needs to be.
And look at that. Roll it back to that the field side view real quick.
Yeah.
Look at when he first starts his throwing motion. Pause it at that. That's anticipation right there. My God, look at you want to talk about anticipatory throwing? This receiver that he ends up throwing the ball to, look how not open he is at this point. He's not even close to open. This is called anticipating a throwing window, throwing it into that window, and then making it happen. The Giants haven't had that for 5-6 years now. And it's the number one reason why they're losing football games, because they don't have an anticipation to their passing game.
That is such a great observation and such an excellent point, man. Because look at Leggett. Leggett is barely out of his break. He's not even out of his break right now. And Dane Belton is right on his hip. And he puts that football. He allows Xavier Leggett. Dude, anybody who's played football or even had catches with their friends before, you know when the quarterback throws the ball well, when you're coming out of a break, you're just like, oh, the football's already in the air. Let me just run to it. I got to sprint to it. I got to get in position to make this catch because he's putting me in such a good spot to secure the football.
The Giants have not put their receivers in good spots to secure the football. And that's a number one thing that gets kind of thrown under the rug a lot when we focus on the drops or all these other issues. It's can you put these receivers in a good position to catch the football? And we just don't do that often.
It's crazy because this is a play designed to 0 and Bryce Young says, F it, I'm going to challenge Dane Belton. And he successfully does. And Xavier Leggett makes the catch. And this was on a 3rd and 8 late in the 4th quarter. Now the Giants still end up getting the football back, as we know, and they kick the field goal, but what a play from Bryce Young. And we also see Dexter Lawrence run through the center again and get right into the lap of Bryce Young. That's right where it needs to be, man. That's crazy.
God, what a ball.
Yeah. Those are all the plays, though.
That was the best throw of the game by far by either quarterback.
You don't think? No, I'm just joking.
that Wandell throw? No, yeah. I mean, it is what it is at this point. Now let's wrap up with some superlatives here, Nick. Let's see who you got going right now. I'm trying to get back down.
Unheralded player. Yeah, it's Drew Phillips, man. Drew Phillips, he had a good game. He had a good overall game. It wasn't perfect. Forced the fumble, gave the Giants an opportunity to win. This is the third time he's forced a fumble. Remember back in Minnesota where he forced a fumble early? We were like, yo, this season we're going to compete. No, but Drew Phillips for me.
It's Drew for me. I debated Newbin, but Drew Phillips had the forced fumble. I thought he was good in coverage when I focused on him in coverage as well. Sticky on the hip. So I just think overall he's a very good player for the Giants and a really good prospect. And he had the most unheralded game. How about highest effort player for you?
Tyler Newbin. Tyler Newbin was everywhere in this game. And I said he was a little bit late to that one. That was one of the only times he was late. I love these young secondary pieces that the Giants have. I think they're both good football players. If anybody gives a shit, Saquon Barkley gave his nod of approval to both of them when the Giants lost to the Eagles. He said, I don't think he said their names, but he said 31 and 22. Those guys are ballers. And I just think it's obvious when you watch the tape. Yes. And I did recently a redraft write-up on a Yahoo Sports redraft for the 2024 draft class for Big Blue View. And in that write-up that this guy did, I don't remember exactly who the author was, Drew Phillips was drafted in the first round. He was drafted 19th or something.
Love it.
This is how people outside of the Giants orbit view Drew Phillips.
Good point. And that's important to us, was we get bogged down with the bubble a lot. And this is how it looks outside the bubble, which to us is very much so important because we have a little bit of a biased view watching so much of this team. I actually had Brian Burns as highest effort player for me, just flying all over the field, giving insane effort. I talked about the play he got injured on where Belton makes it. He's coming from the DN spot 20 yards down the field to make a tackle. Best player overall for me was Brian Burns.
Yep. Brian Burns for me.
Yeah, I think that was pretty clear on tape. Player you expect to see more from?
Bobby Okereke. Yeah. Wow. Look, it's tough being a linebacker in this scheme, especially when Dexter Lawrence is your only competent defensive lineman in front of you, interior defensive lineman. There's no doubt about that. But Bobby Okereke is the leader of this defense, and you expect him to kind of rise to those occasions, and he just did not, and he hasn't for much of this season. This defense has been hard on Bobby Okereke. I know he's still a good football player, but this much responsibility on him and Micah McFadden's plate is a little bit too much at this point with the lack of depth behind Dexter Lawrence and the fact that they have to overcome so many offensive linemen who are right in their lap.
I think that's totally fair. It's a fair assessment of what happened. I went with Dane Belton just because big opportunity for him, and he didn't have a good game. Pass rushing 1 through 10.
I went to 6.8. Look, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't great. I felt like Brian Burns was defeating anybody who they put across from him. Didn't really hear much from Azeez Ojulari and Dexter. Anytime he was in a one-on-one matchup, he was in Bryce Young's lap. So 6.8.
I went 5.9. Obviously, great pressure percentage from Burns. We went over Dexter as well, but a step back for Azeez Ojulari. He's been pretty quiet now for 2 games, heading into his contract year. Run defense 1 through 10.
Yeah, I went with a 1.8. Could have been worse. I could have went with the 0.7s and stuff like that, but I thought backside pursuit was solid whenever it wasn't a crack toss play. Brian Burns made a lot of plays from the backside that were impressive. I think he finished with a ton of stops, like 5 stops or something like that at the line of scrimmage, but overall it was atrocious.
Yeah, 1-5 for me. Not a good game for the run defense. All right, that's all we have for today on the Big Blue Panther defensive film review. Thank you so much for still tuning in. We hope you enjoy these still, even though the season is at where it's at. Please help us. Please like, please subscribe. Please stay focused on or stay tuned into our show, and we will stay focused on delivering you good content as we move forward. Have a great rest of your weekend or week, I should say. Wow, it's Monday. And we'll talk to you soon.